Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. I'm Sukraj Singh, and today I'm here in Manchester with Akal Channel, reporting on the pro-Jeremy Corbyn rally here today, following the most recent events after the EU referendum, where this country is currently in a lot of political, economic and social turmoil right now, with deciding its new Labour leader, new Conservative leader and the leader of our country, who would lead the post-Brexit Britain.
And now I'd like to introduce the Secretary of Manchester Trades Council, who has said are co-sponsoring this event, Chris Marks, also of the PCS Union.
Evening, comrades. As Alex said, my name's Chris. I'm the Secretary of the Trades Council here in Manchester. We're the coordinating group for trade unionists in our city. Now, the Trades Council isn't affiliated to the Labour Party. We have members from all political parties and none involved in our movement. But what we are in agreement with is that Jeremy Corbyn represents the best chance, the best politics for our class and our movement for decades. And that Jeremy Corbyn has stood since and before his leadership election side by side with workers in struggle both in this city and around the country. And now it's our time to show that solidarity back to him. Now, comrades, I am a Labour Party member and I have been a member of the Labour Party for 10 years, and I want to tell you something. When I found out that 172 Labour MPs had signed a motion of no confidence in Jeremy Corbyn, I wasn't shocked and I wasn't surprised. These individuals have never shown solidarity with Jeremy Corbyn. And Jeremy has never had the confidence of these individuals. You see, his mandate comes from somewhere more representative and more powerful in many ways. You see, the Labour Party isn't run by the Parliamentary Labour Party. It's run by our affiliated social societies, our CLPs, and our leader is elected by them. It's elected by trade unionists. And yes, he's elected by the overwhelming majority of Labour Party members and activists, and the PLP would do well to remember that. Now, I found, as I'm sure most of you have, this entire episode completely contemptible, but I'll tell you what I found the most shocking and the most disturbing. And that was the timing of this coup attempt. Following the referendum result, at a time of growing hostility for migrants, of growing confidence for the far right in and outside of the Tory party, and the distinct possibility of an even more right-wing Prime Minister, the Labour Party and the leader of the Labour Party should have been able to give hope and solidarity to those facing racist hostility and telling them that Labour is on their side. It should have been giving assurances to working class people that a Labour government would protect and extend their rights at work. But instead, the media cycle was dominated by an undemocratic and unwanted leadership contest. Shame, shame, shame. And lastly, comrades, I want to say this. Ultimately, as Hannah has said, this isn't just about Jeremy Corbyn, and I think he would be the first to admit as much. This is a fight for the soul of the Labour Party. Comrades, we have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to elect a Labour government that will begin to rebalance wealth and power in our society away from the rich, away from big business, and away from the interests of capitalism, and in favour of the vulnerable, the working class majority in society. Ending austerity, building hospitals, schools, houses, creating a proper universal welfare system without conditionality or sanctions, repealing the anti-trade union legislation, ending the horror of for-profit academy schools, and putting the control and ownership of our public services and workplaces in the hands of the workers and the communities that they serve. In the words of Jeremy Corbyn, comrades, I think they call it socialism. Now, just to end, I'm not the first person to be up here telling you this. I'm going to tell you this, and then a number of other speakers will tell you to do the same. If you're not in the Labour Party, join the Labour Party. Get down to your branches, get down to your CLPs and argue for Jeremy and argue for socialist politics and socialist policies. And together, comrades, we can defeat this coup and build a socialist and democratic Labour Party. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris. And now I'd like to introduce a speaker for the National Union of Teachers. Can I ask Roy Wilkes to come up, who's going to be talking about bringing fraternal greetings and some details about their very important strike coming up. Roy.
Thank you. Comrades, brothers and sisters, Jeremy Corbyn spoke at our national conference this year. He is an inspiration to teachers, and we recognise that the behaviour of the 172 MPs for what it is bullying. They're bullying Jeremy, and we're standing behind him. Jeremy stands in particular for the fight against the twin scourges of our age, racism and austerity. It's absolutely scandalous that the right-wing and so-called soft-left Labour MPs are blaming Jeremy for the loss of the referendum campaign. It's an absolute scandal that those MPs are now pandering to the racism of UKIP by saying that the only way to win back those votes is to control immigration. It's absolute nonsense. Migrants haven't caused the housing crisis. Migrants haven't caused the NHS waiting list to rise. Migrants aren't making class sizes rise. It is austerity that is the problem. Austerity is causing these issues. And Jeremy is standing firm in fighting austerity. And on Tuesday, brothers and sisters, the NUT will be leading the fight against austerity with a national strike against cuts in education and against academisation. You may have been told that the Tory government have made a U-turn on academisation. It isn't true. It's a Z-turn. They're making a slight tactical retreat before continuing with their upsurge of privatisation. And we need to stand against it. And the only national leader of a political party who is fully committed to returning our schools to local authority control is Jeremy Corbyn. So I urge you, brothers and sisters, on Tuesday, join us on the streets of Manchester. We'll be assembling at 10:30, marching through Manchester. We'll be marching through Manchester to Piccadilly Hotel. I want everybody who's here to be supporting the teachers' strike. That the campaign to defend Jeremy Corbyn has to go hand in hand with the fight against austerity. It isn't one or the other. We don't wait for a Labour government. We will get a Labour government by all of us standing up against this Tory government in the here and now and fighting. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Roy. Very important message. Be sure to get out there and show your solidarity with the teachers next week. And now I'd like to ask Colette Williams to come up and say a few words as well.
Thank you very much. My name is Colette Williams and I'm from an organisation called BARAC, which is Black Activists Rising Against Cuts. And we initiated in 2010 when this Conservative government came in with their austerity plans. And we stated from 2010, because of the experience that we've had in this country, that when the plans came in and the cuts came in, that the people that would bear the brunt of these cuts would be the black community. Now, before I go on, I just want to for all of us to give a round of applause to Julie Reid, a Labour councillor who has come up here and showed her support for Corbyn. Brave woman, Julie Reid. I want to tell you about the day that the referendum results were announced, last week Friday. Like many of you, I saw the results come up and couldn't believe that the country had voted, 52% had voted for and out. The first person I spoke to once I got out of my depression in this sad state was a neighbour of mine, an older lady. She's about in her 70s. And she said, "Colette, how did you vote?" I said, "I voted to remain." She said, "I voted out because of all these immigrants." And I'm stood there for about 5 seconds with my mouth open thinking, can she not see that I am an immigrant? That my granddad came here during the Windrush era, and incidentally on the 22nd of June it was 68 years since the Windrush docked in London with 492 Caribbean people that came here to build this country 68 years ago. And on that ship were 90 Polish women. It's the immigrants that have built this country. It's my ancestors through slavery that built this country. It's my ancestors through slavery that built Manchester, this Cottonopolis. And we are here to stay. And that's the reason why I'm here to support Jeremy Corbyn, because he is the only politician, along with John McDonnell, who doesn't blame this dire strait that we're in now on immigrants. We know who caused this crisis. It was the bankers and the greedy Conservatives, and they're going to go down. Join the Labour Party, keep Corbyn in. Born Manchester!
Thanks, Colette. It's the trade union movement founded the Labour Party, even though the MP for Manchester Central appears to have some difficulty with that fact. No names mentioned, no need. But I'd now like to ask a representative of one of the biggest unions affiliated to the Labour Party, the Communication Workers Union, to come on. You know him already, it's Pete again.
Thank you. Just a few words to bring solidarity and support to this meeting from the Communication Workers Union. It was our forebears, the Postmen's Federation, that was one of the founders of the Labour Party. So there's a long tradition in my union of support for the Labour Party. Long tradition for the support of Labour Party leaders, sometimes right, sometimes wrong. This time, we're dead right. When the elections were held last year, my union's national executive voted to recommend that our members, who were affiliated members, support Jeremy Corbyn. And overwhelmingly, they did. This time, our message is absolutely clear. We support, as a union, Jeremy Corbyn.
Been told to move into the centre, not politically, but directionally. The former would be impossible. Right. One of the greatest things about Jeremy Corbyn being elected leader of the Labour Party is that he wants to make a movement for all parts of the working class, to speak for all the people and to include everybody. And that's a hugely important thing, whereas other speakers have said, the Labour Party right, the Tories and UKIP are not just dabbling in racism, they're diving into a filthy pool of it and attempting to drag us all down with them. And we need to oppose that very, very firmly. And with that in mind, I'd like to introduce from Labour students, Deej Johnson, who's going to say a few words on the same theme.
Thanks. Friends, looking out at you and the size of the gathering we have today, I'm reminded of something that my grandma, an old mill worker in Oldham, used to say. She'd be looking at a bonny baby and turn to me in that stage whisper that Lancashire women have perfected over the years. She'd say, Daniel, makes you wonder where old foul folk come from. And you know what? It really does. We're here representing the 250,000 people who voted for Jeremy Corbyn 9 months ago. We're here representing the tens of thousands of people who've joined the Labour Party since his election, and the millions of working class people who finally have in our Jez a leader of a political party who treats us with respect. He talks to us about our dreams, he cares about our concerns, and he offers policies that not only directly respond to these issues, but tackles their underlying causes. He does not resort to the politics of scapegoating and division. Immigrants did not defund our NHS. People on benefits did not sell off our council houses. Single mothers aren't trying to privatise our schools, and I know for damn sure that refugees didn't cause the banking crisis. It is our profit-driven government which is responsible. For over 30 years, successive governments have made a choice to lie to and sell out the working class people of Britain. But we know that they are guilty, and that is why we demand change. Comrades, that is why we are here today. Not just to keep Jeremy Corbyn, but to help secure a Labour Party that embodies the values of equality it was founded upon. A Labour Party that will fight for a better world for us all, not because it sells to some squash-playing Middle Englander, but because it is the right thing to do. This is about the soul of our party. Are we for the people or are we for the bosses? Do we listen to Mancunians or do we listen to Murdoch? Are we driven by our principles or by the checkbooks of multi-millionaires? We are the party that had a vision for this country. We created the NHS. We created the welfare state. We guaranteed secondary education and we legalised homosexuality. In Jeremy Corbyn and with people like us, we are a party with a vision once more. It is a vision of a country where we no longer send our kids to die overseas for the profits of oil men. A country that does its duty in helping refugees. A country that celebrates its diversity. A country that has nationalised rail and utilities. And that seriously addresses climate change, provides free and excellent and liberated education for all. A country that guarantees decent wages, decent homes, decent schools and social services. To make this happen, friends, I need you to do a couple of things. Talk to your friends about the vision we have for this country. If you support Corbyn and are not in the party, go to join.labour.org.uk. If you have the time and would like to get more involved in the fight, join Momentum. That's join.peoplesmomentum.com. If you are already a member, welcome your new comrades. And go to branch meetings and CLP meetings. Bring a friend and be loud and proud about your socialism. Friends, we need to take back our party. We need to take back our country. And we need a leader that has our back. We need Jeremy Corbyn. And friends, Jeremy Corbyn needs us.
Thank you, Deej. I'd now like to ask the speaker from one of the most militant and one of the best organised unions in this country, the RMT Union, to come up and say a few words.
Hi everyone, Marcus Banner, RMT Young Members. Thank you for having me, brothers and sisters. I've just spent this past week attending a course of my union, the RMT's annual general meeting. Now my union, if you do not know, is one that has never stood on the sidelines. And I'm proud to tell you today that our delegates at our AGM overwhelmingly passed an emergency motion to expel those MPs who sat at our parliamentary room, taking our members' money, who moved against the leadership and our membership in such a sly, underhanded manner. The word traitors were, in my eyes, justifiably utilised to describe correctly this selfish, baying mob. Despite founding what became the Labour Party, the RMT has in recent years found itself in confrontation with New Labour. But no one had to think for a second at our conference to back Jeremy, just like he never hesitated to back our union year after year, strike after strike, confrontation after confrontation. He's always stuck up for us, and now it's time to stick up for him.
As you've heard from all the speakers today, it's not just down to a few people in Parliament or a few activists to defend Jeremy Corbyn and to defend the principle of a democratic and socialist Labour Party. It's down to all of you. It's down to every person who wants to see that, to fight for it in the Labour Party. So join the Labour Party and get ready to fight. Join Momentum and be prepared to fight for socialist values. But most of all, take Jeremy Corbyn's message into every workplace and every community up and down this country and be ready to have those arguments and win them. And I'll send you off with this, comrades. We are not going to get a better society or a better Labour Party just by asking for it. We need to be ready to fight for it. I ask you, comrades, are you ready to fight for it? Can you hear me, Westminster? Manchester says, keep Corbyn, fight for socialism and fight for a better world.
Keep Corbyn, 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 keep Corbyn. Right, before we go, we're going to finish with a song, a good socialist song, whose last line is very appropriate. In case you don't know what it is, it says, "When cowards flinch and traitors sneer, we'll keep the red flag flying here." Are you ready for it? The people's flag is deepest red, it's shrouded oft our martyr dead, and ere their limbs grew stiff and cold, their hearts blood dyed its every fold. So raise the skull and stand it high, beneath its shade we'll live or die. Though cowards flinch and traitors sneer, we'll keep the red flag flying here. Good night, comrades. Enjoy the rest of your evening and have a safe journey home. And thank you all for coming in such great numbers.
Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Sukraj Singh here again with Alex Davison from the Manchester Trades Council. Hello Alex, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
So why is there such a big turnout today for Jeremy Corbyn?
I think it shows the strength of feeling both within the Labour Party and in wider society that Jeremy Corbyn's election represented a huge outbreak of hope across the not just the Labour Party but across the whole working class and across minority communities across the country, that we could have a better form of politics and that we could actually dream of having a better society again. So the attempt by 172 MPs, who really are only representing themselves, to dispose of Jeremy in the most undemocratic way possible has angered a lot of people. And I think that's why you're seeing so many coming out here and across the country to support him.
So you're saying there's a lot of hypocrisy about democracy, democratic principles, and what the Labour Party is doing now with the PLP and Jeremy Corbyn with this coup?
Yes, exactly. I think there's those MPs who've carried through a completely unconstitutional vote of no confidence, haven't got the support of their local Labour parties, they haven't got the support of their electorate, and they've violated the Labour Party constitution. And a lot of people are going to look at that and say that's not fair, that's not right, and we're not going to accept it.
And so what would the right course of action be? Should we really be diverting our attention, our time, energy and efforts towards, say, the Conservative Party, the post-Brexit Britain? And
I think what we need to do now, first things first, we need to win the leadership election when it comes up. We need to keep Jeremy Corbyn as Labour leader. But beyond that, we need to strengthen Labour Party. And that's a strengthened Labour Party in every town, city and community in this country. So I would urge all your viewers who want to get involved, join Labour, to help support the ideas that Jeremy stands for, take the fight to the Conservatives who have led the country into chaos and are now falling apart and unable to do anything. We need to force a general election and get a Jeremy Corbyn-led Labour government into power who can speak and stand for all the people and represent all the people.
And do you have confidence that the people will elect Jeremy Corbyn once again, not just for the Labour Party election, but also for the general election for this country?
I think they will. I think the people who elected Jeremy Corbyn last year will turn out again. You've seen 60,000 people join the Labour Party this week, most of whom have joined to support him. But I think Jeremy Corbyn's message about housing for all, about preserving our NHS, about getting better wages for people, that's what people need to hear. And we take that message out to every community in this country. We can preserve Jeremy's leadership, we can win a general election.
Thank you very much, Alex. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Cheers.
So Alex was just raising the issue and the concerns that we just heard him say there about the representation and the hypocrisy of the PLP right now, where they are encouraging democratic principles, yet they're neglecting their electorate and the voice of their largest mandate from Jeremy Corbyn. Right now I have Chris from the local TUC in here in Manchester, who also gave a great speech here earlier about austerity, about migrants and about the neoliberalism. Hello Chris, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm good, thank you.
Can you explain what's going on right now post-Brexit Britain?
Well, we have a situation now in Britain where everything's up in the air. People are very unsure about the future of the economy. It's very clear to me that we've seen over the past week huge rises in racist incidents, And I think everybody, including the vast majority of the working class in this country, is feeling more unsure than ever as to the future of them and their families.
So there's quite, like you said, you mentioned diversity, you mentioned anti-racism. These are two strong founding principles of the Labour Party and what we actually believe in. I just wanted to ask you, we've seen quite a large, diverse crowd here. Where would Jeremy Corbyn stand on anti-racism and pro-migration?
I think Jeremy's made his position on this very, very clear. It's the standard socialist position, which is that the things in society that divide us aren't based on borders, man-made borders that can easily be torn down. They're not based around race or religion. They're based about politics and ideas. And the things that divide us in society, as far as we're concerned at the moment, is the fact that wealth and power is entirely based in the hands of the rich and big business, while the scraps on the table are for the rest of us. And Jeremy's platform is very, very, very clear. The way you remove division in society is by rebalancing that wealth and power in favour of the people that create the wealth in society, the working class, and to protect the most vulnerable. And that's what Jeremy's politics, I think, and that's the thing about Jeremy's politics, I think, that's so inspiring. And that's one of the reasons why we've seen today, at very short notice, space of about a day and a half, thousands of people in Manchester come on a rainy afternoon to come and hear support for him, and more than that, to get involved in the Labour Party, not just to defend Jeremy, but to pursue and to argue for those ideas and those socialist politics, because people are urging and crying out for a change in society, and this is representative. These people are representative of that change.
So you mentioned, you want a fair and just society. That's what Jeremy Corbyn stands for. Social justice principles. The fair distribution of rights, resources, opportunities, wealth, and power, and the trade. Almost every single trade union is behind Jeremy Corbyn. Why are the PLP still persisting on ousting his leadership?
Because the PLP are diametrically and politically opposed to this project. It's not a secret that the PLP, the Parliamentary Labour Party, has for decades been completely divorced from the membership, completely divorced from the trade unions, and completely divorced, I think, from the electorate as a whole on the ideas and the principles that they want and that they want for their families and their children. I don't consider Blairism, for example, to be wholesalely different to Thatcherism or to the Cameron agenda, right? People are disenchanted by that kind of stuff. And sorry.
We've got Chris here from the TUC explaining where actually Jeremy Corbyn stands on social justice principles and how he actually appeals to a large majority of people, and how the actual establishment and the PLP are working against him, even though the general election and the largest mandate have a different opinion. Back to Chris, sorry.
Sorry. So yeah. Ultimately, that's why the PLP, established in that Blairite consensus, are obviously very put about by the fact that the majority of members and trade unions disagree with them fundamentally on this principle. And they've got a choice to make, I'm afraid, at the end of the day, because the Labour Party is controlled and should be controlled and is certainly funded by the Labour movement. And we're the ones that should control the direction politically of the party, including the election of the leader, not those that sit atop the party in the Parliament in Parliament to dictate what we should and shouldn't be able to say and think, and who should and shouldn't be able to be our leader.
Excellent. Just one last quick point and question. A lot of analysis are showing that this is actually the EU referendum was actually a working class vote, a protest vote against the establishment, against the system, against capitalism, because they've abandoned and neglected the working class. How true is that, and what do you think can be a possible area of reform for Jeremy Corbyn to lead?
It's interesting, but I'd make this point, this nuanced point. I think it was, on the whole, a vote against the establishment. But it wasn't a vote in favour of socialist principles. Let's get that absolutely straight. Unfortunately, the campaign for the Leave side was dominated overwhelmingly by horrific, poisonous, racist politics. And it really is up to us, as the Labour Party, I feel, to offer an alternative to that, right? I am an anti-establishment individual, right? I'm a militant trade unionist, I'm a socialist. but we need to offer a different direction of that anti-establishment feeling than towards racism and towards division and towards socialism, towards social harmony and yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of communities are, you know, you've got black working class, white working class, Asian working class. You've got so many people that are on the bottom.
Absolutely. So when I hear people like Boris Johnson say this was a working class vote, it can be absolutely clear about this. There are black, there are immigrant working class people as well, and they would not have been in favour of of coming out of the European Union. I have friends, friends from the European Union who are now very, very frightened. Polish friends are very frightened about their continued future in this country. They're working class and they're trade unionists. So it's not as simple as that.
Thanks a lot, Chris, for talking to me.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
That was Chris from the TUC explaining the nature of this vote, nature of the EU referendum, what it means for the working class, how the establishment is actually the political, economic policies have actually driven the public behaviour of the electorate to vote in a certain way. You know, whether it was a pro-EU exit vote, whether it was a anti-EU vote, people decided to leave the EU to actually attack the establishment. That's many of these arguments are holding from the trade unions and other working class representatives. So we've just heard from Chris from the local TUC talking about this anti-establishment vote, and now we've got actually Hannah here from Momentum in Manchester. Momentum is a people-powered campaigning group, pressure group that supports Jeremy Corbyn, is that right?
Yeah. That is right. So we're a grassroots movement that was founded in the wake of Jeremy Corbyn's election as leader to the Labour Party, around people who support him, support the interests that he stands for and the politics that he stands for within our party.
Is that largely because his policies, his movements, his values of social justice, his principles on a fair and just society are largely neglected and largely turned away, pushed away by the establishment, by the mainstream media, by the corporate world, etc., etc. So what Momentum is essentially a grassroots campaign that is 100% behind Jeremy Corbyn and leads rallies like this here that you're seeing today, Manchester, London, and Liverpool, etc. And then this is exactly what's going on. So what do you see the future for Jeremy Corbyn in terms of the next leadership election? I think Monday is they're going to start the campaign for the leadership election. Is that right?
Yeah, that seems to be the word on the street anyway. And I think that, as we've seen here tonight, I think people who are in the party already, you know, the membership voted 59.5% in support of Jeremy Corbyn in the leadership election. People are really angered and outraged by what's happening here. People feel very neglected by the PLP, who are trying to oust our democratically elected leader. And what we're seeing is a tension between those of us who want a Labour Party that is more like a social movement, which is on the side of people who face, you know, social injustice, oppression, who face racism, who face, you know, stagnating wages. And we're seeing a PLP completely disregard that. So I think we're seeing real antagonisms between the membership, whose actual wishes are being ignored by the people elected to represent us in Parliament, and people are angry about that. And so I think that come the leadership election, it's something not that we thought would necessarily be happening, but I think that we're ready for this fight. People, you know, you see here tonight, there's swathes of people, there's 60,000 people who've joined the Labour Party in the past week to get behind Jeremy Corbyn, and people want this person. He's someone different, he's principled, he's not, you know, the usual establishment politician who's only in the interests of business and not of people like them, and people are galvanised by that, and he's given people hope, and that's the most important thing. And I don't think whatever they try and do, whatever they try and manoeuvre, no matter how much pressure they put on him and how they try and discredit him, they can't stop people's hope.
I think it's good. I think it's quite good. I mean, I went to the London Momentum rally as well. The atmosphere is a lot more different here as well in Manchester. A lot more talk about how this government, how the Tory government, how like the Conservative policies have actually abandoned this the local councils, the local health services, the scapegoated against all the arguments for EU on migration. Once again, it's really powerful here. But we've got a strong sense of unity here from the Manchester community that we're pro Corbyn. You know that we're going to fight for him. There's no doubt about his leadership. There's no contest, so you're very confident in the vote now. Would you say that, you know, the PLP are a small group of people that are not representing the largest community in Manchester right now?
Yeah, I think that's the case. I mean, I think I wouldn't necessarily phrase it like that, but I think they're a group of people who aren't acting in the interest of the membership. You know, 60% of people in the Labour Party members. If you're forgetting as well how much the party membership has doubled with the election of Jeremy Corbyn as Labour leader, and that's surely good for the party. We're seeing more and more young people, more and more people who've been previously disenfranchised, excited about the Labour Party, viewing the Labour Party as their home, as the home of social justice once more. And that's something that we need to fight for and defend. We can't just simply eradicate that, because to me that's the end of the Labour Party, or what this opportunity gives us, certainly.
Okay, cool. So how how will Momentum lead this campaign, not just for Jeremy Corbyn's Labour leadership election, but also now for the general election? Should there be one early? Because I know he wants to invoke Article 50 quite soon, lead a post-Brexit Britain. What are your views on that, and do you have confidence in him leading this country out of the EU?
I do really have confidence in him, because I think what we're seeing at the minute, I personally voted for Remain, but what we're seeing at the minute is rising racism, rising xenophobia, and I think that two things that the vote out of the EU definitely kind of highlighted is, one, it can be construed as a vote against the establishment, and also we're seeing the complete cementing of the anti-immigration narrative, of a politics which blames, failures of capitalism and of people's declining living standards, failures to build social housing for previous governments, including New Labour, failures to properly fund the NHS to ensure that people can get appointments and that the NHS isn't privatised, that it's publicly run. That is now the dominant narrative, the dominant political narrative blames on immigrants, and I think that Jeremy Corbyn is the only person of any political leader that actively defends immigration along the lines of human solidarity, along the lines of equality between people, completely disregards a racist political narrative, and I think that he is definitely the person to lead us out of that, because actually we can no longer continue with this politics of division that's kind of it's tearing communities apart, it's ruining people's lives, and it's allowing bosses who don't pay their employees enough to get away with that, and actually it's he's the person to rebuild that movement, and to actually kind of progressive politics in Britain once more.
And where does Jeremy Corbyn's position and values with respect to human rights, how does that differ from the Conservative administration, because they're also campaigning now to repeal the Human Rights Act? This is not something Jeremy Corbyn favours. There's a large divide on this in politics from the political parties, but there's also a large divide within migration with the Labour Party. Some are pro-migration, some are not pro-migration. You've got splits between the Communist Party of Britain, and you've got also the Social Democratic Party and the Labour Party. Where does Momentum stand on migration policies?
As a grassroots movement, I don't know if Momentum has an official kind of position on that, but certainly the people that we interact with and the people that we campaign with in Manchester and Trafford Momentum, I definitely of the political viewpoint that we should be standing in solidarity with our neighbours, and standing up for immigrants who come here. As somebody quite rightly said, the reason why people are school education isn't being funded properly, the NHS isn't being funded properly, and all these kind of declines in living standards that people face were not caused by immigration at all. We shouldn't. That just isn't the case. And I think that Jeremy Corbyn, in his defence of the movement of people, and his defence of not along the lines of, oh well, migrants bring this to the economy. We shouldn't be reducing people to mere pound signs. We should be standing up for that as a human right and in terms of human solidarity. And Jeremy Corbyn does that. So if we can't fight racism with racism, and there are those on the right of the PLP who think that the British public voted against immigration and to leave the EU. Well, actually, the way that we change that and the way that we kind of galvanise and actually change society is by standing firm and saying no. It was not. We don't pander to anti-immigration narratives. We listen to people, but we say the very reasons why these problems are solved, but they're solved by strong economic policy that we as a progressive Labour Party that stands up for social justice can cater to.
Is that why the narrative of the Momentum campaign is strictly anti-austerity, anti-neoliberalism, anti-neoconservatism, anti-privatisation, because you believe that these are some of the root causes that are actually causing the displacement of refugees. It's the kind of consequences of capitalism that are giving rise to these tensions, not the unequal distribution of wealth that is giving rise to these confrontations, not the actual migrants themselves. And Jeremy Corbyn is proposing a new radical form of politics that will revolutionise, mobilise and transform our economic and political policies. Is that what Momentum is exactly behind that? Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely it. Yeah.
Thanks, Hannah. That's Hannah from Momentum in Manchester. Thanks for that. Thank you.
Problem.
Nice to meet you. Thanks, bye.
You too. Thank you.
So that was Hannah from Momentum. Momentum is a people-powered campaign that is a pressure group that is 100% supporting Jeremy Corbyn and his policies. Momentum is actually nationwide, so you can join their organisation. And one of the reasons why they set up is because you've got a lot of other lobbying groups and a lot of other campaigning groups that serve a lot of other political parties and their policies. But Jeremy Corbyn is generally neglected in the mainstream media. So Momentum choose to combat that unfair representation, combat that exposure of Jeremy Corbyn and his fair and just policies on the rest of the campaign. So now we've got Kwasi and Nuruddin here from Manchester as well, giving a little thoughts on Jeremy Corbyn. Hi guys, how you doing?
All good.
So what made you come out here today?
The situation itself is getting really worrying, and now they're talking about they want to shake out Corbyn. It doesn't make sense. It's a rare thing to see a true politician.
Yeah.
So when I hear some truth, I'm going to support it. And it's supposed to be Labour.
Yeah.
Labour means of the people. So we really need some people to back him. That's why I'm here.
So you feel like, Jeremy Corbyn represents, everyone, represents the struggle, represents the social struggle, represents, what's actually wrong in society, and he's standing up there today with honest and just principles.
I mean, I could just say, for me, I'm in my mid-30s, and for the first time ever, I was politically active through university anyway, and about the Stop the War coalition was part of that, and about the Iraq War. So I knew about Corbyn before he was a mainstream kind of politician in a sense of that. But in a chance, in a lifetime, to really get him to run for the leadership of the Labour Party, and for an overwhelmingly voted and democratically, elected by the members of the Labour Party, for him then, in the time of crisis, for the MPs and the Labour Party, MPs to stand against him, it's shocking. More than ever, we need somebody like Corbyn, because this is not about even the ego, it's not about Corbyn, it's about the issues he stands for. Inequality, social justice, fighting to bridge the gap between the rich and poor. We're talking about his credentials are there for everyone to see for the past, 30 to 40 years, where he's gone against LGBT rights, whether it's LGBT rights, whether it's the apartheid in South Africa, him getting arrested. He's always been there in the grassroots of people and what real people are worried about. So I find it really, really difficult for me personally, in a time where, because what they're saying doesn't make sense. So some of them are claiming that Corbyn, it's the fact that we left the EU is because of Corbyn, because he didn't campaign enough. But then you've got someone like Alan Johnson, who was the leader of the Remain campaign for Labour. His constituency voted out. So that don't make sense. That doesn't make sense. So for the first time they're saying, there are people in the north of England, because they're blaming everywhere obviously down north, even though nobody's talking about the Conservative voters who voted out, right?
So you're saying a lot of attention should be towards the Conservative government right there?
So at the time of that, I find it really suspicious and really, really hard for me to understand, to come to terms with. Why is Corbyn getting blamed? If do you really want to, these people you're saying that feel alienated, who are angry, who gave this establishment by voting out, who gave the establishment a bloody nose, why? Who's going to reach them? Another Blairite? Who's going to reach them? So they want somebody, my hand's busted, but I can't show you. So they want somebody in an Armani suit with slick hair and giving jazz hands like Tony Blair used to. That's what they want. That's not going to work. That's not going to resonate with working class people of this country. And this idea that working class people are racist and working class people are the problem where we find ourselves, it's the biggest lie. This establishment, this was created by the establishment, this was created by Cameron, this was created by some business leaders and the media moguls in this country who wanted to leave the EU. This had nothing to do with working class people wanting to get rid of the EU, and it was framed all around immigration. So we've seen some of the xenophobic attacks, but working class people have always been, anti-racism, all of the movements throughout since the 70s and 60s. My granddad here was 1958, as I'm sure some of the people we can relate to, and all of the working class people have always stood in solidarity with people from different countries.
Final question, would you vote for Jeremy Corbyn if he ran for a leader for the Labour Party again?
All day long.
Of course. Okay, tell me who else. Tell me who's the alternative. Who else can you vote for that is going to stand for the principles and the hopes and dreams of people of the working class in this country? There isn't anybody.
So we're here now with Rod and Amish from Manchester, who have also come out here for this Corbyn rally. Welcome, guys. How are you?
Okay, thank you. And yourself?
Good, thanks.
Okay, so can I ask what you guys are doing here today and what brought you out here?
All in support of Corbyn being Prime Minister.
Corbyn for Prime Minister, and yourself?
Well, it's a crucial moment in the history of the left in this country, and I think we have to be here for solidarity with Corbyn.
So it's a crucial moment for the left because maybe the centre has collapsed given this EU referendum talk. Is that a fair reason to say that?
Yeah, I think there's obviously a reactionary kickback in the PLP, and this is the moment, I think, to to show solidarity and to all stand together and make sure that it prevails, our movement prevails.
And how confident are you in Jeremy Corbyn for leading a post-Brexit Britain?
I'm very confident. I don't think his shortcomings in terms of charisma and eloquence are important. I think it's what he says and what he believes. Those are the important things.
So he puts actions and words, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you. And would you vote for Jeremy Corbyn if he ran for Labour leader and the general election?
Oh, absolutely.
And yourself?
Naturally.
Thank you guys.
Okay.
So I'm here now with Mel and Stephen, who have come all the way from Preston to attend this rally. Mel, so tell me, have you been following Jeremy Corbyn since the last 9 months or so, since he became a leader of the Labour Party?
Yeah, to be honest, I lost a lot of faith in the Labour Party for a long time. I've got a long-standing Labour family, but since Jeremy Corbyn's come along and I've seen that he's speaking truth and answering questions straight and addressing true people's needs, then he's really caught my interest.
Has that got to do with a lot of the Tony Blair years, Gordon Brown years, and post John Major, etc. You've been following politics for quite long now, and you've seen the Labour Party shift a bit more towards the right. Is that why you'd say you'd lost a lot of faith in the Labour Party?
Yeah, I felt for a long time there was not a lot of real difference between any of the main running political parties, to be honest. And there was a lot of dodging of questions and accountability in politics, and not really listening to the everyday man sort of thing.
Yeah. And are you looking forward now to the Chilcot report for July, I think 6th or 7th it is, with Tony Blair? And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are saying that there's this coup against Jeremy Corbyn at this current time, and they're shifting the blame towards the EU referendum result.
Yeah, I believe that to be true, to be honest. Yeah, there's a lot of things probably come out that will be very shocking, and a lot of hard truths hit home, and a lot of people don't like that.
Thanks a lot for that, and I'm sure you'll be voting for Jeremy Corbyn if he runs for leader of the Labour Party and for the next general election. Is that safe to say?
Yes, I'll probably follow him to most parties, to be honest.
And yourself, Stephen, is that true?
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
Thanks a lot for guys. Thanks. So I'm with Dave now, who's also from Manchester, and he supports Jeremy Corbyn because he's a self-proclaimed, strong self-proclaimed socialist, and he believes that Jeremy Corbyn represents him. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I'd say that's got a spot on, yeah. I joined the Labour Party when I was young, in 1985, just after the miners' strike. And I had to leave the Labour Party when Blair took over because it no longer represented what the Labour Party had represented throughout history. And I rejoined a number of years ago, and what kept me in the party was Jeremy Corbyn. He's a socialist. He stands up for socialist values. He stands up for the working class. He is anti-austerity. He's the only one of the candidates who stood in the leadership election last time who voted against the welfare bill, for example. So for that reason, I think it's really important that Jeremy Corbyn stays strong. I hope he does stay strong. Good heavens! I don't think I could have. I don't think I could have had the resilience that he has had in the face of such hostility from 170 odd MPs. But the good thing is that there are 250,000 Labour Party members, and
it's increased now.
Yeah, and there's 60,000 joined in the last week. So I think that whatever happens, if there is a leadership challenge, I think you'll win again.
So what we've seen here from every single speaker on this stage today, and some of the comments from the people that we interviewed from the general public, is that this is a rising aggression, a rising frustration with the actual establishment itself, with the economic policies that are driving away the working class, disenfranchising the youth, a protest vote against the establishment, and Jeremy Corbyn is actually saving a lot of people here who have suffered throughout the years of oppressive economic policies. There are a rising, unprecedented number of voters and registration rates for the Labour Party right now. In the last couple of days, we've had 60,000 people register to become part of the Labour Party. Just in Jeremy Corbyn's time for the last 9 months, he's got over 200,000 people that have joined the Labour Party. And right now, the current crisis reflects disenfranchised, a disassociated political relationship, a political connection between the politicians and the electorate themselves. Jeremy Corbyn is now standing to redistribute the power, redistribute the wealth, redistribute the rights, opportunities and resources for the mainstream general public of the British population. And he faces a lot of threats now by the establishment, by the mainstream politicians, through this Labour Party coup. And through the general media that have actually gone against him in recent time, and we'll see whether or not it's successful in the recent leader elections of the Labour Party and the next general election. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.